COVID-19 outbreak. If I could have a motion to accept the statement, and if you would just please identify yourself. Who's speaking?
So moved. This is Howard Patel.
Lisa LeClaire, I move to adopt your statement.
And if we could have a second.
They still can't hear us online. Those of us that are online. Can you hear us, Sherry?
Sound issues because we can't hear them.
Yeah, they can't hear us. Sherry, can you hear
If we
us?
could have a second on the motion made by Lisa LeClaire.
Folks, looks like we have a technical issue. If you can't hear the online people, we can hear you, but you can't hear us.
I need to contact Paul. They can hear us, but we can't hear them. They're
Correct.
talking, but we can't hear
Okay,
them.
we
And they can
accept the
hear each other.
motion by Howard Cottrell to accept the motion made by Lisa LeClaire on the statement of record in regards to our meeting. With many of us being remote today, I'm Sherry Franklin. I'm the chair of the Tourism, Metro Tourism and Convention Commission, and present and managing this meeting today. If you would, I'm going to do a roll call. So we're having some phone challenges. So if you would just raise your hand if you're present. Fletcher Foster, if you can speak, please speak, and we're listening to hear. So Fletcher Foster.
We're going to have to pause until we get the sound fixed.
Okay, we're going to pause for one.
Excellent.
Still are waiting on Shannon Sanders to join
Was there a second link? Didn't you send a second link out?
yesterday.
I wonder if he's trying the other one.
Okay.
Proposed agenda constitute essential business and that the meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and well-being of Tennesseans in light of COVID-19 outbreak. If I could have a motion to accept, and if you would please identify yourself for the minutes, who's accepting and who's second.
Lisa LeClaire, and I move that we adopt her statement.
Randy Miller, seconds.
It's been moved and properly second that we accept the statement of record in regards to the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair, this is Alex Dickerson from Metro Legal. Because this is a hybrid meeting that there's some of you meeting in person, some meeting online, you'll need to do a roll call vote. So you'll need to identify each person as opposed to a voice vote like you're used to in person.
Thank you. All right, Fletcher Foster.
I am here. Sorry. Took me a sec to get the program downloaded, but I'm here. Good afternoon, everybody.
If you would just approve the motion and the second is what we're doing right now. Howard Cottrell. So
Okay.
what I'm currently doing is doing a roll call for acceptance of the motion, and we'll do this each time since everyone is currently hybrid with the exception of Lisa LeClaire. So if you would just say you accept when I
Yes.
call you.
Okay. Sorry, I thought it was a
Fletcher Foster,
accept.
Howard Cottrell,
Accept.
Randy Miller,
Accept.
This is challenging. This is so freaking challenging. I can't use my hands because the other, oh my God.
Lisa LeClaire,
Accept.
Marquez,
Accept.
Neely Glenn,
She should be on the call.
she was.
Mhm.
Shannon Sanders,
She's muted. You might still.
Lachlan,
He's supposed to be, but I've not seen evidence of him being on yet.
Neely, I'm going back to you. If you can accept the motion just by an aye. Currently, you're muted. Neely, if you can unmute and accept the minute, accept the statement of record. She's muted on her.
She's muted on her, I believe. Yeah, I can't unmute her from my end.
Neely, if you can accept, please.
It might be, it says she's joined by her phone, so that might be providing some technical difficulties.
Is that correct? So we do have a quorum that has accepted the statement of record. And this is a question to legal, if we can proceed.
Yes, this is Alex Dickerson. Assuming that you would treat those who weren't able to answer as abstaining, as long as you had a majority of those present and voting approving the motion, then it passed.
Thank you. The statement has been moved and properly seconded by each member. We will continue on with our agenda. The minutes were sent out, so I'm asking for a motion to approve the minutes from our January meeting.
Randy.
This is Mark, motion to approve.
Second.
Can you, who second that, if you could identify?
I believe it was Fletcher.
Sure.
It has been moved and properly seconded that we accept the motion to approve our minutes from the January meeting. I will do the roll call again. Fletcher Foster.
Here.
Howard Cottrell.
Here.
Randy Miller.
Approve.
Lisa LeClaire.
Approved.
Mark Hayes.
Approved.
Neely Glenn. Catherine abstained. Shannon Sanders is absent as he comes from work.
But yeah, who's ever.
And Hank Adams, Hank Lachlan. It has been moved and properly seconded that we accept the motion for approval of our January minutes. We will now move on to hearing about our finances from Mr. Jeff Medford.
Good afternoon, everyone. The financial statement that you've been provided that's in front of you is through the first 8 months of our fiscal year ending February 28th. And as is not a surprise to anyone, we entered the year with what we thought was a realistic budget, but conditions have proved to not live up to those expectations. And so we have been forced pretty much throughout this fiscal year to operate in a continual cash conservation mode as revenues have remained at a very low level. During this time, we've done our best to be as efficient as possible with our available resources. Total hotel tax collections for the fiscal year through January, which is the latest number that Metro has reported at this point, for the full 6% of the hotel tax, have totaled only $14.5 million for that 7-month period, which represents a 72.3% decrease over that same period last year. Just for comparison purposes, that number was $52.4 million last year compared to the 14.5 this year. So just another example of what we've been dealing with. You'll hear more about our promotion efforts from the others in the group, but thus far in fiscal 21, we've actually been quite active and engaged with both our clients and our constituents, many times virtually, while living within our limited means. But this is truly just a Band-Aid to maintain a pulse for the industry until we can really get back out there and drive business like we're used to seeing. The current funding level does not really allow for any real marketing of the city. And looking at the report, as you can see from line 1, through the first 8 months of the fiscal year, our total expenditures that were funded through our Metro contract have been $5,168,183. Like our available funding, this is down about 70% from the prior year at this point in the year. But rather than just just waiting around for the sun to shine again. We have been very proactive in pursuing other opportunities to supplement our core funding. And through February, on line 3 of the report, you see that the additional revenue from other sources is actually slightly greater than the revenue we've received thus far through our contract. Of this total of 5.8 million of other outside revenues, about 4.4 million of it represents funding that we received from a state tourism CARES Act grant. This was a reimbursement program that was offered by the state to fund certain qualifying marketing expenses. We were finally allowed to participate in the federal PPP program by the Relief Act that passed in December. So this will help us underwrite some of our administrative and fixed costs and free up our Metro contract funding for other marketing and promotion activity. You'll also hear mentioned an additional EDA matching grant that we have been pursuing and have recently been awarded that will help fund some upcoming advertising over the next 6 months. So we certainly haven't taken the crisis lying down. We've been very active, both with our clients and in looking for ways to market the city. Included in the report, we do include other expenses that are not funded by the Metro contract, just for reference purposes. There's throughout the different sections of the report, but some of the larger items that are included in these numbers that were funded primarily from the CARES Act grant from the state, 3.4 million in domestic advertising, another $500,000 in international promotion, and about $1 million in other fixed costs that would normally have been funded through our contract that we were able to fund from other sources this year, sort of in other one-time sources. But as you look through the financial summary, you'll see that reductions have been required virtually in every expense category by the severe funding decrease this year. In total, through the first 8 months of the fiscal year, our total expenses have been right at about $11 million, of which 5.2 million was funded through our contract with the city. And then finally, just for the record, our annual CPA audit has also been completed and for the year ended June 30, 2020, and it's been submitted to Metro as is required by our contract. Just wanted to have that in the minutes. That's been done. So we are hanging in there. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We've been living on a shoestring up to this point, but feel like better days are ahead. But if anybody has any specific questions, I'd be glad to try to address those.
Any questions? Thank you. If we could have a motion to accept the financial report given by Jeff.
This is Howard Patel. I'll move.
If we could have a second.
Lisa Leclerc, I'll second.
And I have to do roll call one more time just to, for the approval of the financial. Fletcher. If you would just say this motion. Howard.
Yes, approve.
And Randy.
Approve.
Lisa Leclerc.
Approve.
Mark Hayes.
Approve.
Did Millie ever get on?
Yes, I'm sorry, my volume wasn't working, but I'm on, so approve.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that we approve the.
I believe Hank Adam Laughlin is
Oh, is Hank
on.
on? I'm sorry, Hank.
Looks like he's muted.
Hank Adam, you'll have to unmute yourself on your end, I believe.
Hank, I believe you're muted for acceptance of the financial report.
That's okay if he doesn't, we've got a majority.
We do have a quorum for that, so it's been moved and properly second that we accept the financial report. Jeff, we do appreciate that. Thank you for your due diligence maintaining the revenues for the Bureau. Our CDC report, which is not with us today, but Andrea will be giving us a report from the CDC.
Great, thank you. I'm going to be giving both Butch's reports and Dina's report. She is out today as well. And then at the end, after my colleagues go, I'll do my report. So first I wanted to note, he's trying to get on the call, but he's not on here. But I did want to give a note of thanks and a recognition to our fellow Commissioner Shannon Sanders. If you watch the recent Grammy show, you know that the Fifth Jubilee Singers won their first Grammy, which was huge for Nashville. They're the core to our Music City story. And that was because of a show that was produced by Shannon. So we were able to ride his coattails. So we appreciate that and congratulate him. Jeff went over in his reports the tremendous, how lucky we've been to get some grants and through the State CARES Act and also our EDA grants. Those have been very critical to us as we prepare to rebuild. And those, particularly the EDA grant, will be of significant importance as we launch an advertising campaign to invite people back. We had an opportunity to harness that first with the Grammys. Right after the Grammys came up right after we learned of the award being given to us, and we were able to do a TV spot ad in 10 markets through the Grammys. That resulted in considerable increases in our web traffic from those 10 markets in the 50 to 60% up range. So that was really helpful to have. Also, we have coming up at the end of April, the ACMs. The ACMs, as they did last year, will be going live from Nashville, which extensively becomes a commercial for Nashville, especially in regards to our Music City brand. But in addition to their normal spots of going live from the Opry and the Ryman and the Bluebird Cafe, they also are going to add 2 additional live shots that we know of, the Station Inn, and they're also will be going live from 5th and Broadway right in front of the new National Museum of African American Music. So we'll be able to showcase even more of our assets with the Music City brand. We have been very fortunate to receive a green light from the city to go forth with the July 4th celebration. Mayor Cooper announced that and requested we go forward. We are still in the planning processes of that, but Butch wanted me to make sure to guarantee that it will be the largest, to report that it will be the largest fireworks display we've ever had. So we are very, very fortunate. We had already had Brad Paisley booked for the 2020 celebration, and when that had to cancel, he was very generous to agree. So we already announced him as our headliner act.
Wow.
We will be working fast and furious here to build out the rest of that lineup to make sure we have a wide range of diversity, particularly for of Nashville-based talent, particularly in genre diversity, for a whole day of entertainment. We are also very fortunate as we look to recovery to have some new events that are on the books that will bring our existing fans are excited to come back, but this will bring some new audiences, particularly in the world of racing. We have a NASCAR Cup Race in June 20th, scheduled for June 20th at the Super Speedway that's in Wilson County, but folks from all over will come for that and largely stay in Nashville. We also have an Srx Race Series, which will happen here in Nashville on July 17th. This is a series of 6 races, and it's labeled The Road to Nashville. The 6th and final series will be in Nashville. So we're part of the branding, and it's at the fairgrounds, and it'll be an event largely for fans to interact with the drivers like Tony Stewart and others. And then in the first week of August, we'll have the Music City Grand Prix that will be racing through the streets of downtown Nashville. So that's exciting and new things in addition to the existing events that are planning, which will be bring new customers here. Going on into the marketing report that Dina would normally report on, of note is we being Nashville, recently received the Safe Travels designation by the World Travel and Tourism Council. We received that designation largely due to the Good to Go program that we created right after the pandemic started. As we open back up, we know from our research that visitors are considering safety and value as the top 2 consistent reasons of what they're looking to determine travel. So that designation becomes very important. And as of now, we're only one of 3 designations. We're in 3 destinations in the U.S. to receive that designation. So we're in good standing there.
Shadow.
I'm sorry? Keep going. We also have started planning our international advertising buy with British Airways. Right now, they are planning on returning to their direct flight between Nashville and London in June. We'll need to get a little bit closer to the time to make sure that that goes, but we're ready to support them with an international advertising campaign. And that will start with 5-day-a-week service in June, which is very, very good. Another good sign of progress. We recently did a program with Expedia for booked travel, and we had our normal fan base markets we expected, but when we looked at the top 10 markets that went through and booked Nashville trips, we had 3 new markets that traditionally aren't included. That's Philadelphia, Miami, and Minneapolis. So that's another good sign that more people are coming than from the obvious spots, which is great. We have throughout the pandemic been monitoring all different sources of research, but particularly ones coming from STR and tourism economics are of significant importance. And just recently, both of those entities have predicted that Nashville will be one of the top markets for demand recovery in the country, and that they are predicting, independently predicting, that we will be back to 2019 numbers by 2023. So that's great news. We're faster than most destinations, and also we're in 2021. So to Jeff's point, while we've got a lot of great signs of progress, it's still going to be a climb to get back to where we were, but it's a very good sign. Overall, we're seeing a demand increase. We're seeing a lot more increase in visitor inquiries via web, via phone, and in person with our visitor centers. Our Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights are really looking strong, but our Sunday through Wednesday nights are still pretty low. And with that, I will segue into Adrian to give you a little more detail on the sales side.
Sure. The sales team booked over 167,000 definite room nights last quarter, which was an increase over the previous quarter. In addition, we saw an uptick of by 94% in leads in Q3 over the previous quarter. So we're definitely starting to see the clients start to interact, come back online, and certainly can't wait to get back to Nashville. We've certainly not lost our destination appeal in any way, shape, or form. It looks like the first major convention that is likely to move forward at the Music City Center will be the American Institute of Steel Technology in June. They are full force, ready to move forward. And the team really continues to just try and rebook any group that's canceled and to try to put them on the books for a future year, and also book groups that are relocating out of other cities that are unable to meet, in particular California cities. So we're focusing on that right now. Since we last met, we've hosted several different virtual events for our client set. In January, we hosted 300 clients as part of the PCMA breakfast that we typically host every year. That, again, was a virtual songwriter breakfast. This year, Louis York performed, which was very well received. He's written for several artists, including Michael Jackson, Miley Cyrus, Bruno Mars, and the list goes on and on. We hosted it at Thurn and Lindsley, so that was a great opportunity to showcase a Nashville venue. And in March, we hosted another client event for 75 employees of the American Society of Association Executives. We hosted that live from the National Museum of African American Music, and Louis York again performed at that event, which was actually in celebration of Black History Month. That event actually kicks off the planning process for us, actually Nashville, hosting that group in 2022, which will be great exposure in the meetings industry to Nashville, the new Nashville. The last time they were here was in 2014, and there have been a significant number of new hotels that have opened since they were last here. Looking forward, on Thursday, we are actually taping a live performance of Phil Vasser at the Ryman Auditorium. That performance will be used for 2 different virtual functions, the first of which will be for a Brand USA global platform for UK clients, international clients in April, and then also for the American Bus Association, their live conference, or actually their live virtual conference, which will be in June. So we'll yet again have another great chance for exposure with our client set of Nashville. We are sponsoring that event alongside Ryman Hospitality, as well as the state. So big thanks to them for their partnership. But these virtual events, it's just kind of our new normal. It's our way of connecting with the client set until we can meet again. We're definitely looking forward to that day for sure. So that's all on my end.
So Adrian, with the percent increase in leads, 21 or all years?
A significant amount of 21, 22, smaller. The lead room night count is significantly smaller. The majority of large scale conventions we're talking to are looking to rebook, but the majority of leads we're seeing is short term, smaller market for sure. Single property. It's a good question.
And how are you handling that with people, meaning your staff? Because I know you laid off some.
Well,
Significant number.
yeah, no, actually, well, we were fortunate to keep the sales staff
Oh, okay, good,
intact.
good, good,
But no, we did have some admin on the sales side.
Okay,
We
okay.
furloughed, but we've been able to maintain and keep
Okay,
up for
all right,
sure.
good.
They're just so excited to be busy again
I'm
and
sure.
actually to see
Yep.
have some really exciting conversations about new opportunities versus, the rebooks and the cancellation challenges that have come with that. Any other questions you all have?
I mean, it's just great to see, increasingly.
Well, Sherry, I know you're seeing that.
Yeah,
and-
we are seeing
Yeah.
that as well, but just coming in as a city as a whole.
Absolutely.
Gives everyone the opportunity to participate.
Yes.
With that.
I think what's also significant is that lead count up over 94% does not count rebooks as new leads. So even given that, I mean, that gives you an idea of how many more leads that are out there that we're actively working.
And I guess from a size perspective, are you looking at 15, 20 on peak upwards? Or what is?
We're seeing as high as, 200 to 400 peak. Really, that's kind of the average. And we have seen and are compiling a list of groups that have actually met in the city to give as examples to our client set who are a little hesitant on whether or not to move forward with their programs. So we're compiling that list for the sales team to really communicate. And we're looking for that first partner to step up and talk to a trade publication and talk about their experience in the city, which is coming soon, hopefully.
Have you reached out to any of them to see partner on that as well?
Yes. And Sherry, if you have an example, I'd love to work with you.
I think,
Or Lisa.
overall, for the entire city, I think, we're all in this together in regards to rebounding. So I would speak on all of our behalf.
Yes.
That we would be willing, to reach out to our customers.
That's great. I mean, in the past, it's been a little tricky because they haven't necessarily wanted to come forward and go public, for a variety of reasons as actually hosting a program for those attendees. But now as the vaccine is in process and, restrictions are lifting, I think there's definitely more potential for that.
I think the giving confidence, and then even with the safe travel destination.
Absolutely.
That has been very helpful to spread that word out to our customers as well. So
Definitely.
we appreciate you all taking the lead on that program because I think many other cities wish they had done that.
I think
so
you're
we want.
And I believe, Marie, you have a report?
I do. Thank you. And hello, everyone. So I want to share that internally, I think since the last meeting we had, our staff, our diversity council here internally kicked off lunch and learn sessions, which really has been engaging and helpful for us to connect with our local organizations in that diversity space, educate our internal staff, as well as be able to speak to the culture in Nashville when we're talking to customers. So for instance, the first one was in February. We had two. We did one with the Nashville Public Library, Civil Rights Center. They had a presentation, and let's see, Jefferson Street Sound, which talks about the history of Jefferson Street and music. They presented to us last month for Women's History Month. Scarrett Bennett presented to us, and we're recording these to keep it in our resources folder so that staff that could not attend are always able to access that kind of information. We just last week had a phenomenal one about Kurdish history overall, and then Nashville's role in that community too, so that it's been really great. On a national scale, Destinations International, Butch is the board chair, and we both serve on the EDI task force. What they are doing is compiling information from different destinations in the diversity inclusion space. What are you doing in your city, at your destination, or in your organizations? And so we submitted 2 case studies. Tennessee Thrives, which I think everybody's familiar with, that we've done for several years now. And we also included information about our Internal Diversity Council. And actually since then, about 2 weeks ago, I had a conversation with a CVB in Winnipeg, and as well as in DC about our Internal Diversity Council, because they were really interested in finding out, what are you guys doing? This is something we're really interested in, and we want to implement this in our destination. So Really exciting. And then also Destination International. This is their third EDI Leadership Masterclass, and we are participating in that as well to help us with our internal and external engagement in this space. And then Andrea already announced the Grammy award-winning Fish Jubilee singers and Mr. Shannon Sanders, who has now joined us. Thank you so much. I did want to mention too that and if he wants to chime in, he can, but that Grammy was a result of the very first Spring Sing that we were engaged with and that Shannon produced. So thank you so much and congratulations again.
Thank you.
I think that deserves a round of applause.
But I think that Nashville is still the leader. So many cities want to benchmark and utilize best practices that our city has put in place. So congratulations on the outreach to our cultural community. Andrea, what do you have for us?
Okay, putting back on the hat of Andrea, I have a couple things just to update the group. First, we continue to work with the Tennessee General Assembly. I'm sure you're all aware we have several bills that have been filed this year that are deemed discriminatory. And we've been working with a broader Tennessee-based business community to express how those bills, regardless of the merit of those bills, how they disrupt our ability to do business. From our perspective, we get calls from conventions that threaten to cancel. So there are 6 different bills in particularly that we are watching. One has already passed, and we anticipate a few more passing, unfortunately, despite our best efforts. So we are working actively with our sales team to make sure we are in a client preservation mode to save as much business as possible. We want to try to defeat the bills first, and if not, try to go into explain how Nashville's opening, welcoming culture. You can still have a great experience here despite those bills passing, and we're opening to all cultures and people who want to come here. We do already have a couple of calls and a couple of groups that are in question, so we're working with them on that. As we reopen, we understand just about every segment of our hospitality industry is in a great need for workforce. We're certainly sharing that with every other destination in the country, sharing that issue, but we are going to be hosting 2 upcoming job fairs for our industry, May the 11th at Gaylord and May the 12th at the MCC. And we've already gotten a really good response from industry partners to showcase there to try to get people who are seeking jobs back to work. That'll be a key initiative for us as we continue into recovery. And then lastly, I wanted to mention prior to COVID, we had a fairly robust training session where our aim was to train the hospitality industry frontline workers on all things Nashville. Our model at that time was all in person, so of course it had to pause. But we used the space of the pandemic to retool that, and we are very close to unveiling that hopefully in the next 4 to 6 weeks, which will be a great improvement on what we offered. It'll be a more consistent curriculum that builds on and actually really teaches the story of Nashville in addition to what's here and offering our visitors, and it will be largely offered as an online program. We will have in person as well, but I think the pandemic caused us to really look at it in a way we'd never had, and we came out of it better. So that's to come here in the next month for our industry. And that concludes our CDC report, Madam Chair.
Great. So great reports from the CDC. Excited just to see that Nashville is actually getting all of this quote unquote free advertisement, if you will, starting with the ACMs, literally, and just looking or listening to the report, there is some type of advertisement for Nashville, literally, for the rest of this quarter, beginning in April with the ACMs. We're extremely excited about Brad Paisley and the largest fireworks show planned for Nashville, 4th of July, and it being a full day event. So I think that is something, again, our hospitality community can build upon and go all the way through August. So again, I would just say thanks to the CDC team for the pivots that they've done the leads that's coming in, excited about that, and then the ability to snag Bill Vasser for a taping, but also to get everyone in the hospitality community back on board in hosting the job fairs, as well as being proactive in regards to the bills that are currently being passed. We do appreciate that. So we will continue on with our agenda. The next is, first of all, I would just like to say thank you to the Interim board for participating on the training that we had in February. Very good learning for all of us. So thank you again for taking time out of your day to participate in that. Part of that training, we reviewed the rules and procedures for the commission. Thanks to the legal team for reviewing those documents. One of the things that came out of it was there were quite a few ordinances that was referenced. So I do have that information. Mary Jo here has been working with me on a couple of things. So there are a couple of questions that I needed a little bit of clarification on, and I will send out that document to everyone along with the ordinances so that we can review that. But what we'll need to do at our next commission meeting is to get those approved. So we'll send out the draft document as well as all the ordinances so that you can refer to them. If you have any questions in regards to anything in those documents, if you would just send me an email so that I can send those over to Mary Jo as well as the legal team to get those answers. And then in June, we will be ready to get those adopted and moving forward with having our rules and procedures in place. So that's a quick update on that. The next is something that we've been working on, I guess, since last year, was the RFP for our tourism and sales and marketing services for the city. So in addition to managing this contract, we had asked the commission, Metro had asked the commission to draft the scope of work requested in the RFP. So I requested two of our board members, Mr. Randy Miller and Lisa LeClaire, to work with me on drafting that, our scope of services, and a couple of other items that's in the current RFP that we're working under. So we will be meeting on Monday to review that so that we can continue the process. You know, part of, just as a reminder, the contract, current contract of services was scheduled to expire this June. So Metro did pass a one-year extension through the council in January, and that now expires June 30th of 2020. So the council was provided a timeline at that time and had called for awarding a RFP in March. So we're behind schedule. So given that, we are going to work expeditiously to get the RFP in place because we really have 14 months left on this contract and we need to get that moving. So next steps is to draft the scope of services. After that, then there is a solicitation for an RFP that has to be sent to Metro, to the purchasing department. And from there, an RFP can be issued. So our goal is to have all of this done and completed the goal is no later than the end of the month. So that is kind of our update on that. But from there, once the RFP is completed, there's the evaluation in return of the RFP. So if any commissioners want to share any thoughts on the scope of services, that was an addendum to the RFP. So once I get that information, I will send all of this out and I welcome all comments. So goal is to have everything delivered to Metro by the end of the month. And from there, Metro can issue RFP, review, and then award the contract. And then Mary Jo, there are any other timelines that we need to be concerned about?
Let me just backtrack, if I may, one on the Monday meeting, because it has to be a public meeting. We'll probably handle one-on-one with me for scope of services, because as commission members, it's a public meeting. So, and I apologize, Sherry, and I got some feedback from legal and didn't get a chance to share that with you, but so that's my apology there for you, Sherry. But so we'll work on scope of services, and then you had everything else correct. From, kind of the rest of the process, we will look at submitting the request for solicitation, and then that gets posted. There'll be a time frame for offers, roughly, usually about 3 business weeks for that offers, to make that submission, and then we'll look at any evaluation panel and then award. So, got that right?
I think I see a question. Howard? I think you may be on mute, Howard.
Steps. Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you for giving us the overview and the steps of this process. The commission has not had to do this before, so this is, at least on my time, so this is sort of a brave new world for leading us into it fearlessly, I might add. And Mary Jo, thank you too. I think these are really good steps to have the commission more involved, but would it be possible for us to get like the timeline? What are the steps and what are the sort of target dates to get us from April 6th, 2021 to June 30, 2022? When do approvals have to take place? What is the review time? Things of that nature, just so that we, since it's sort of been put back on us, so that we have a comfort level that we're hitting those targets. Because suddenly I'm feeling more responsible.
Sure, and I commit to doing that. It's been 5 years since the commission's had to go through the process, and so I kind of already started to take the notes, and I'll put together about, like a one-page summary that just talks about the timeline.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Howard.
And the term of the contract is a 5-year.
5-year contract.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been a while since we've gone through this for the city.
All right. So our next order of business is we need a vice chair. So we have a chair. So we need a vice chair. The vice chair is basically responsible for conducting meetings and business on behalf of the commission when I'm not available to perform those. So we had sent an email out asking everyone to just kind of come to the meeting with some thoughts on a vice chair. That position will, in accordance to the rules and procedures that the draft document, those positions are usually about a year, but they can always be renewed each year. So if we have any nominations for a vice chair, I will open the floor for that, or any questions that you may have in regards to the vice chair.
Madam Chair, this is Alex Dickerson from Legal. Could I speak to the timeline for just a second about that?
Yes.
Okay, just to make it clear to everyone, the way the proposed rules are going to work, you all will be electing a new chair and vice chair in June, because that's what your previous rules stated. So the individual who takes this position for vice chair, assuming you adopt the rules, will probably just be in this position for a small amount of time before we have a whole nother election at the next cycle. So just clarifying that this is a short duration. It may be that you put the same person in the vice chair role come June, but that's when the expected next election is going to be.
Correct. Thanks for the clarification. Do you have any discussions or a motion for a vice chair? I open the floor up.
Sherry, can I ask, are you thinking for a kind of an interim vice chair or to be voted on in June?
I was thinking we would complete it all today. So we would,
Potentially for 2 months.
yeah, so what I'm looking for is a nomination for a vice chair to serve until we do our formal elections in June for a chair and a vice chair. So this is a very short-lived position. And we would vote on that today, who that vice chair is.
This is Hank Adam Lachlan. I nominate Shannon Sanders to be the vice chair between now and June.
Oh. Well, I was thinking Fletcher.
Hello?
Hank, I was going to second that.
Okay. So
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, by golly, let's have a vote.
So are we voting on Shannon as vice chair? I just want to clarify.
And how does Shannon
Yes,
feel
ma'am.
about that?
That's who I nominated. We had a second.
Shannon, do you accept a 2-month term?
Shannon, you are muted on your end, I believe.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I accept.
You accept. So it has been moved and properly second that we accept Shannon Sanders as vice chair through June 30, 2021.
Correct.
Right. So I need to do a roll call that everyone is in favor. So Fletcher?
Approve.
Hank? Where'd Hank go?
Yes, I vote yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Shannon? Shannon, I just have to do a roll call. If you would unmute.
You can just say present,
Yes.
Shannon.
Randy Miller?
Yes.
Lisa?
Approved.
Mark?
Yes.
And
Yes.
awesome. Thank you all. It's been moved and properly second that Shannon Sanders will serve as vice chair of the Tourism Commission through June 30, 2021.
Yes.
Is there any other business?
Thank you all. I will do my best.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Shannon.
We'll
Thank you, Shannon.
work very well together, so looking forward to working with you. Again, we want to say congratulations to Shannon on that Grammy Award for 5th Jubilee Singers. That is just amazing and awesome news, and you continue to help us keep Nashville on the map. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Well, thank you. And I said it before, but that Grammy was born out of that room back when Butch asked me to just simply help Dr. Kwame with the first spring sing, and Marie grabbed it by the horns, and so what was a concert has now turned into a Grammy. So tremendous blessing, and thank you all for your support. Thank Butch for your support, and just you guys, entire team. It wouldn't have been possible without you guys, and I say that, but it's really true. It wouldn't have been possible without CVC. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there any other business or any other questions that anyone may have? So if not, if we could have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we close this Tourism Commission meeting on today. Thank you all again for your attendance.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Sherry.
Sherry.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Andrea, Paul, thank you all. Sorry about the mute situation. Thank y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hank Adam.
Thanks.